ఓం శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః. అందరికీ నమస్కారం. See, in this video, let us examine what is no mind, because mind is a beautiful master. One disciple has asked his master like this: Master, how does watching, that is witnessing, lead to no mind? Because you always teach us to be watchful all the time. So what is the essence and meaning of that teaching of watching? Can you please explain? Then the master said like this: My dear, meditation covers a long pilgrimage. When I say meditation is witnessing, it is the beginning of meditation. And when I say meditation is no mind, it is the completion of pilgrimage. So, witnessing is the beginning and no mind is the fulfillment. Witnessing is the method to reach no mind. Naturally, you will feel that witnessing is easier. It is very close to you. So, you must remember that the witnessing is like sowing seeds, and there is a long waiting period. Not only waiting, but also trusting that the seed is going to sprout, that it is going to become a bush, that one day the spring will come and the bush will have flowers. So, no mind is the last stage of flowering. See, sowing the seeds is of course very easy. It is within your hands. But bringing the flowers is beyond you. You can prepare the whole ground, but the flowers will come on their own accord. You cannot manage to force them to come. So, the spring is beyond your reach. But if your preparation is perfect, spring comes. That is absolutely guaranteed. So, in the path of witnessing, if you are starting to feel once in a while a thoughtless moment, you must note and carefully observe that these are glimpses of no mind, but they last just for a moment. In this regard, remember one fundamental law: that which can exist for a moment can also become eternal. You are not given two movements together, but always one movement only. And if you can transform one movement into a thoughtless state, you are learning the secret. Then there is no hindrance, no reason why you cannot change the second movement, which will also come alone with the same potential and same capacity as the first movement comes. If you know the secret, you have the master key which can open every movement into a glimpse of no mind. So, no mind is the final stage when mind disappears forever and the thoughtless gap becomes your intrinsic reality. If these few glimpses are coming, it shows and indicate that you are on the right path and you are using the right method. But remember, do not be impatient. See, existence needs immense patience. The ultimate mysteries are opened only to those who have immense patience. See, in this regard, I want to share a, a story. See, in old Tibet, it was customary and respectful for every family to send their first child to the great experiment of expounding, expanding consciousness. So, that is the great experiment of expanding consciousness. So, the first child of our family was given to the monasteries to be trained in meditation. So, a 6 year boy was given to the monastery, and the father said, "My dear son, don't look back." So, it is the first day he dropped the son at the entrance of the monastery and told the boy not to look back. So, at entrance, he was asked by the inmates to wait outside with closed eyes and in a state of non-movement. That means he has to sit unmoving silently. That was the instructions given by the inmates of the monastery. So the boy sat like that, flies on his face, but he was unmoved. So he was sitting like that from the sunrise to sunset. So at sunset, he was called in, and the inmates have told him that he have passed the first test because he has trusted the word that he will be called in. So then afterwards, years of training in witnessing and all that. So the criteria of the training is that until he experiences no mind, he will not be allowed to see the parents and family. So once he achieves no mind, he can move back into the world and there is no problem. So the point here is, once a man is in a state of no mind, nothing can disturb him from his being. There is no power bigger than the power of no mind. No harm can be done to such a person. So, no attachment, no greed, no jealousy, no anger. Nothing can arise in him. So, no mind is absolutely a pure sky without any cloud, the master said. Then the master further continued, my dear, there is an intrinsic law. See, thoughts do not have their own life. They are parasites. They live on your identifying with them. So when you say, for example, I am angry, you are pouring life energy into anger because you are identified with the anger. But when you say, I am watching anger flashing on the screen of mind within me, then you are not giving any more life energy to anger. So you will be able to see that because you are not identified with that. Then that anger, whatever it arises, it becomes absolutely impotent and has no impact on you. So it will pass on and it will leave the sky clean and the screen of the mind empty. Slowly, slowly you start getting out of your thoughts. That is the whole process of witnessing and watching. In other words, George Gurdjieff used to call it non-identifying with your thoughts. So, remember that watching needs a certain distance. If you are close, you cannot watch. So, a certain distance is needed from mirror to see your own face in mirror. So, watching destroys this oneness and creates separation. The more you watch, the bigger is the distance. So, these are the ways and the criteria of how one has to choose. Let us examine what the criteria is. If you move on any path or on in any methodology, and if it brings joy to you, if it brings more sensitivity, more watchfulness, and gives a feeling of immense well-being, and note that this is the only criteria to show that you are going on the right path. If you become more miserable, more egoistic, more greedy, more lustful, and note that these are the indications that you are moving on the wrong path. So on the right path, your blissfulness grows more and more every day, and your experience of beautiful feelings will become tremendous. They will become more colorful. I mean, colors that you have never seen in the world. Fragrances that you never experienced in the world starts spreading. Then, in such a case, you can walk on the path without any fear that you can go wrong. So, these inner experiences will keep you always on the right path. Just remember that if they are growing, that means you are moving. Now, you have only few moments of thoughtlessness at this stage. So, it is that a state is not a simple attainment. It is a great achievement because people in their whole lives know not even a single moment when there is no thought. So, these gaps will grow. As you become more and more centered, more and more watchful, these gaps will start growing bigger. So, my dear, the ultimate achievement is when 24 hours a day you are surrounded with no mind. Carefully listen. That does not mean that you cannot use your mind. That is a fallacy propounded by those who know nothing about no mind. No mind does not mean that you cannot use the mind. It simply means that the mind cannot use you. So, no mind does not mean that mind is destroyed, but simply it is put aside. You can bring it into action any moment when you need to communicate with the world. No mind simply means that mind has been put in the right place. As a servant, it is a great instrument. But as a master, it is very dangerous. It is unfortunate and it will destroy your whole life. My dear, remember one thing: when the mind remains silent for hours, it becomes fresh, young, more creative, more sensitive, regenerated through rest. So, ordinary people's mind start somewhere around 3 to 4 years of age. Then they go on continuing for 70 to 80 years without giving the mind any holiday. So naturally they cannot be very creative. They are utterly tired. Millions of people in world live without any creativity. Creativity is one of the greatest blissful experiences, but their minds are tired, not in a state of overflowing energy. So, the man of no mind keep the mind in rest, full of energy, immensely sensitive, ready to jump into action any moment. So, the man who has experienced no mind, when he uses his mind, then you know what happens. Such men's words start having a magic of their own. It has a charisma, it has a magnetic force, it has a tremendous spontaneity and freshness. So, a mind is nature's most evolved medium of expression and creativity. So, the man of meditation, or in other words, the man of no mind, changes even his prose into poetry. So, without any effort, his words became so full of authority that they don't need any arguments. The, fo- the force that they carry become a self-evident truth. There is no need for any other support from logic or scriptures. If you are ready to listen and receive, you feel it in your heart, that self evident truth. My dear, look down the ages. Gautama Buddha has never been contradicted by any of his disciples. Neither has Mahavira, nor Moses, nor Jesus. There was something in their very words, in their very presence, that convinced you. Without any effort of converting you, you are converted. None of the great masters have been missionaries. They have never tried to convert anyone, but they have converted millions of people. It is a miracle. But the miracle consists of a rested mind, of a mind which is always full of energy, freshness, and is used only once in a while. So, when a master speaks to you, those are the only moments when he uses mind. Other times he is a pure silence when alone. Meditation surely leads to no mind. Just as every river moves towards the ocean without any maps, without any guides. So every river, without exception, finally reaches to the ocean. Every meditation, without exception, finally reaches to the state of no mind. But naturally, when the Ganges is in the Himalayan mountains, wandering in valleys, it has no idea what the ocean is. But it is moving towards the ocean because water has an intrinsic quality and capacity of always finding the lowest place. And the oceans are at the lowest place. So, rivers are born on the peaks of Himalayas and start moving immediately towards lower places, and finally they are bound to find the ocean. Just the rivers is the process of meditation, my dear. It moves upwards to higher peaks, and the ultimate peak is no mind. So, no mind is a simple word, but it exactly means enlightenment, liberation, freedom from all bondage. See, it is an experience of deathlessness and immortality. So, my dear, once this mind is non functioning, you become part of the mind of cosmos, the universal mind. Then your individual mind functions as a beautiful servant. It has recognized the master, and it brings news from universal mind to those who are still chained by individual mind. So when master speaks, remember, it is in fact the universe or cosmos is using him or flows through him. The words of the master are not his words, they belong to universal truth. That is their power, that is their charisma, and that is their magic. So, this is all about no mind, my dear ones. Thank all the masters. Thank you all.